straight, can you?
There was a point there that I was making, but I give up.
Point not found.
Anyway, it's cool to watch.
As Rachel Zegler once proclaimed with unwavering confidence, her millions of fans would line up no matter what she did, certain that her name alone could fill theaters. Disney, perhaps swayed by that same bravado, made what some now call one of its boldest and most disastrous casting decisions. Choosing an actress whose off-screen persona would soon eclipse the magic of the role itself. The studio wanted a symbol of modern empowerment, a face for a new era of storytelling. Instead, it found itself at the center of a cultural storm. What began as a dream project meant to reintroduce Snow White to a new generation gradually unraveled into a spectacle of backlash, ego, and misplaced ambition. When Disney first announced its live-action remake of the 1937 masterpiece, the excitement was electric. Fans across the world celebrated the return of a film that practically built the Disney empire. The original Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs wasn't just a movie. It was the foundation of animated cinema, a daring artistic gamble that turned into a global phenomenon. Its hand-drawn charm, gentle spirit, and timeless innocence had enchanted audiences for nearly a century. So, when whispers spread that Disney would reimagine this cornerstone of its legacy, expectations soared. Audiences imagined a magical blend of nostalgia and innovation. A story faithful to its origins, yet refreshed with modern themes of independence and courage. For a moment, it seemed like the perfect formula. But behind the glittering marketing campaigns and polished press releases, something was brewing. The studio's desire to modernize collided with fans' attachment to tradition. Early reports suggested sweeping changes. The Seven Dwarfs replaced with magical creatures, the prince's role minimized or erased, and Snow White herself transformed from a gentle dreamer into a fiery, outspoken rebel. Social media lit up with debates. Supporters hailed Disney's decision as brave and forward-thinking, while traditionalists warned that rewriting the DNA of such a beloved story was dangerous. Snow White, after all, wasn't just a tale. It was a piece of childhood itself. Still, Disney pressed on, confident that a new message of empowerment would resonate with younger audiences. Inside studio walls, executives boasted of elaborate sets, cutting-edge technology, and a story that would speak to modern times. Yet that confidence was soon tested when their chosen leading lady stepped into the spotlight. Rachel Zegler, fresh off her breakout in West Side Story, was expected to bring depth and sincerity to the role. Instead, her interviews and social media appearances became viral for all the wrong reasons. Her remarks about the original Snow White, dismissing the classic romance as outdated and mocking the prince's character, were seen by many as arrogant and disrespectful. What should have been a simple promotional tour quickly turned into a public relations nightmare. Clips spread across TikTok, YouTube, and X like wildfire. Fans accused her of looking down on the very film she was supposed to honor. "Every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see," she said, a quote that would later be replayed countless times as proof of hubris. Industry insiders, once optimistic, began to worry. If the film's star couldn't connect with audiences, how could the movie succeed? The project, once marketed as a celebration of legacy, was now seen as a symbol of Hollywood's disconnect, a reminder of what happens when studios chase trends instead of timeless storytelling. And as the controversy deepened, the tone around Snow White shifted from excitement to skepticism. Critics began predicting disaster months before release, and even within Disney, whispers circulated that the project had become too political, too preachy, and too risky. The stakes were enormous. Disney wasn't merely remaking a film, it was rewriting its own history. Yet somewhere between intention and execution, the magic slipped away. Looking back, the signs were all there. The balance between innovation and respect for tradition had tipped too far. The studio's attempt to modernize a fairy tale turned into a cautionary tale about identity, ego, and the fragile relationship between artists and audiences. What started as a celebration of progress became a symbol of excess. And Rachel Zegler, once Disney's golden choice, found herself at the center of a storm she never saw coming. The Snow White remake wasn't just another movie gone wrong. It became a mirror reflecting Hollywood's most uncomfortable truth, that in trying to redefine magic for modern times, Disney may have lost sight of what made its stories timeless in the first place. Rachel Zegler at first appeared to be an unconventional but inspired choice for Disney's Snow White remake, a fresh, youthful face with undeniable talent and vocal strength. Having already earned acclaim for her breakout performance in a major musical adaptation, she seemed poised to bring new energy to one of Disney's most iconic princesses. For Disney executives, the casting decision aligned perfectly with their vision of modernizing a beloved classic for a new generation. Zegler, a young Latina actress with charisma and confidence, embodied the studio's push toward broader representation and inclusivity. On social media, the reaction was immediate and electric. Fans celebrated the idea of a Latina Snow White, calling it a bold step forward. Finally, a new take on a Disney princess. Posts read as enthusiasm spread across platforms. In the beginning, the excitement was palpable. Interviews, teasers, and behind-the-scenes photos painted a picture of progress and optimism. Zegler herself fueled curiosity, dropping hints about how this Snow White would differ from the 1937 original. The new story, she implied, would be updated for modern sensibilities, a version in which the princess wasn't defined by romance or rescued by a prince. At first, her comments were seen as harmless PR talk, the kind of language that accompanies any modern remake. But subtle shifts in tone began to appear. She started expressing open discomfort with traditional fairy tale tropes, particularly the image of a gentle princess waiting passively for true love's kiss. Instead, she described her Snow White as strong, independent, and self-sufficient, suggesting that the film would strip away anything she considered outdated. Initially, most people shrugged off these remarks as typical Hollywood posturing. It was 2025 after all. Audiences expected reinvention. Yet few realized these early statements were the calm before a storm that would soon dominate headlines. Behind the glossy production stills and upbeat press releases, whispers began circulating through the entertainment industry. Rumors surfaced of on-set tension, confusion over creative direction, and disagreements between the film's traditionalist producers and its younger, more activist-minded team members. The biggest controversy, however, came from changes to the story's supporting characters. Reports emerged that the 7 dwarfs, central figures in the original film, were being replaced with a mix of CGI and magical creatures, allegedly in response to sensitivity concerns raised by actors with dwarfism. While some praised the effort to avoid outdated stereotypes, others argued that erasing the dwarfs altogether undermined an essential part of the tale. Actor Peter Dinklage's earlier comments reignited debate about representation, and fans online began asking difficult questions. Was Disney being progressive or just pandering? Were they rewriting history or erasing it? Social media became a battleground. One side applauded the studio for embracing change, while the other accused Disney of abandoning the innocence and charm that defined its golden age. Comment sections overflowed with arguments about whether the film was too woke or simply misunderstood. Still, the studio forged ahead with confidence, pouring millions into marketing, merchandise, and lavish promotional campaigns. The assumption was that the noise would fade once audiences saw the final product, that Disney's magic would once again prevail. But the turbulence was only just beginning. 2 weeks before the film's highly anticipated release, everything changed. During what was meant to be a lighthearted Instagram live session, Zegler inadvertently ignited the biggest controversy of her career. Sitting casually in front of her phone, she began chatting with fans about the press tour, joking about how often she'd had to repeat the same talking points. But as comments rolled in, her tone hardened. She vented her frustration over the constant criticism she'd faced online, accusing detractors of being stuck in the past. She mocked the idea of a romantic storyline, calling the original Snow White's prince a borderline stalker, and rolled her eyes at fans defending the 1937 film's innocence. The live stream clips spread like wildfire across X, TikTok, and YouTube. Within hours, her words had been viewed millions of times, dissected in reaction videos, and quoted in viral memes. While some defended her candor and celebrated her rejection of outdated gender norms, the backlash was far louder. Many accused her of arrogance, claiming she was ridiculing the very story that made her famous. Others called her comments disrespectful to Disney's legacy and to the generations who grew up cherishing the original. What had started as a casual moment of frustration instantly became a public relations nightmare. For Disney, the timing couldn't have been worse. Just as promotional efforts were peaking, their leading actress had alienated a significant portion of the fan base. Hashtags like "Knock Not My Snow White" and "Respect the Original" trended worldwide, while media outlets described the situation as a meltdown in slow motion.
I'm really stressed out. It's kind of like stupid to complain about. I swear I'm not complaining. I love what
Rachel Zegler, once hailed as the future face of Disney magic, was now at the center of a cultural firestorm. One that raised uncomfortable questions about Hollywood's relationship with its audience, the line between progress and respect, and how easily a single live stream could undo years of careful planning. The moment marked a turning point not only for the film, but for Disney itself, as the studio watched a story about dreams and innocence become a real-life cautionary tale about pride, perception, and the perils of underestimating nostalgia. That single live stream became a cultural lightning rod. The moment everything changed. Overnight, social media erupted with hashtags calling to cancel Snow White or condemning arrogant Hollywood elites. What had started as a debate over creative choices, the dwarfs, the modernization, the script, transformed into something much bigger. Now, the question wasn't about the movie's artistic direction. It was about whether Rachel Zegler, the face of Disney's new era, had any genuine respect for the legacy she was inheriting. The conversation shifted from filmmaking to values, from fantasy to authenticity, and that shift proved devastating. As news outlets amplified the controversy, public sentiment hardened. The meltdown, as entertainment blogs soon dubbed it, became the defining headline of the film's release cycle. 2 weeks later, when Snow White finally premiered, the effects were immediate and brutal. With Zegler's viral comments still fresh in everyone's minds, early box office indicators painted a grim picture. Advanced ticket sales came in far below projections. Theater chains reported weak pre-orders and an unusual number of last-minute cancellations. Behind the scenes, sources claimed that Disney's marketing teams had gone into crisis mode, scrambling to downplay the backlash and redirect attention toward the film's visuals and technical achievements. But it was too late. The damage had already been done. Opening night arrived with an air of nervous anticipation. Social media filled with posts from fans walking into eerily quiet theaters. TikTokers filmed themselves sitting among rows of empty seats, joking that they'd bought out the entire theater by accident. "We came, but no one else did," one viral caption read. YouTube critics uploaded videos dissecting Zegler's livestream, arguing that her tone-deaf attitude had alienated the very audience Disney depended on: nostalgic families and classic film lovers who wanted comfort, not condescension. By Sunday night, the numbers confirmed the disaster. Analysts had expected a domestic debut between $80 and $90 million. Instead, the final tally limped to just under $40 million, less than half of projections, and a stunning blow for a film of its scale. Commentators labeled it the biggest misfire in modern Disney history. A catastrophic opening, one trade publication declared. Not even Disney magic could save it. Even the film's defenders struggled to shift the narrative, insisting the controversy had been overblown and that Zegler's remarks were being twisted out of context. But perception had already crystallized. The Snow White remake had become synonymous with failure. Behind closed doors, the fallout intensified. Reports surfaced that executives were holding emergency meetings to assess damage control strategies. Could international markets salvage the investment? Would Zegler's reputation ever recover? Journalists uncovered whispers of last-minute script rewrites in post-production, possibly meant to undo the most divisive creative changes. Rumors spread that Disney's PR department instructed cast members to avoid discussing Zegler publicly. Some co-stars allegedly felt blindsided, their months of hard work and press efforts overshadowed by a single viral moment. Even within the crew, morale reportedly plummeted. What was once meant to be a triumphant cultural reset had turned into an industry-wide cautionary tale. Meanwhile, rival studios quietly took notes. The message was clear: nostalgia is fragile. Tamper with it at your peril. Modern audiences might welcome updates and representation, but not if they come at the expense of what they love. To mock the very foundations of a cherished story, or to treat fans as adversaries rather than allies, was a misstep no budget or PR spin could fix. The meltdown had transcended the movie itself, becoming a warning shot to all of Hollywood about the dangers of arrogance and misreading public sentiment. But the cultural aftershocks ran even deeper. As the outrage spread, Snow White was pulled into the center of America's ongoing culture wars. Political pundits seized on the controversy, twisting a children's fairy tale into a talking point. Progressive commentators praised the film for shedding regressive tropes and redefining what a princess could be. Conservative critics, on the other hand, accused Disney of destroying tradition and pushing ideology over storytelling. Every headline, every viral clip became ammunition for one side or the other. Suddenly, Snow White wasn't just a movie. It was a battleground for values, identity, and nostalgia itself. In the midst of all this chaos, the artistry of the film was lost. Some critics genuinely admired the cinematography, the costume design, and even the performances of supporting actors. But those praises barely made a ripple against the tidal wave of controversy. The meltdown dominated every conversation, every review, every piece of marketing that followed. By the end of its theatrical run, Snow White was no longer being discussed as a film. It was a phenomenon, a cautionary parable about the collision between art, ego, and audience expectation. For Disney, it was a sobering reminder that even the most powerful studio in the world is only as strong as the trust of its fans. And for Rachel Zegler, the lesson was even harsher. In the age of social media, one unguarded live stream can undo an entire career's worth of promise. Memes mocking Rachel Zegler's dismissive tone quickly overtook any positive press, turning what might have been a fleeting controversy into a full-blown cultural narrative. Every sarcastic clip, reaction video, and parody tweet amplified the backlash, cementing the story in a cycle of ridicule that no PR campaign could reverse. Before long, Snow White's disappointing box office numbers stopped being viewed as mere financial underperformance. Instead, they became part of a larger Hollywood parable. A tale about pride, nostalgia, and the unstoppable force of social media outrage. What began as a film release had morphed into a lesson about how fragile celebrity can be when the audience feels disrespected. The overarching message was clear. No legacy is too big to fail, and no star is too untouchable to face backlash when they appear to mock the very magic fans hold sacred. In the dazzling yet volatile world of Hollywood, the so-called Snow White meltdown became a cautionary anthem echoing through studio boardrooms and fan communities alike. Executives, producers, and actors were reminded of a sobering truth: that audiences don't just consume nostalgia, they protect it. And when that nostalgia is dismissed, the reaction can be swift, merciless, and global. For Disney, the fallout stung deeply. The studio that once defined fairy tales was suddenly accused of misunderstanding the very essence of its own storytelling. For Zegler, the controversy served as a painful example of how easily authenticity can be mistaken for arrogance in the digital age. Every meme, every late-night joke, every headline reinforced the same message. Audiences don't want to be lectured by those they once admired. They want to feel that the stories they grew up loving still matter. In the end, this wasn't just a movie flop. It was a mirror held up to modern Hollywood. The Snow White remake showed how even the most iconic stories can stumble when creative reinvention crosses into disregard. Fairy tales may promise happily ever after, but in reality, every legend depends on the respect given to the magic that came before. When that respect is lost, no amount of CGI, celebrity power, or corporate spin can save the story. And that's how a timeless princess tale collided with modern sensibilities, an outspoken star, and an unforgiving internet to create one of the most dramatic Hollywood implosions of the decade. Maybe the lesson is simpler than it seems. When you set out to remake a classic, never forget why it became a classic in the first place. Thanks for watching! If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories just like this. And drop your thoughts in the comments. We're reading every one of them. We're reading every one of them.